Hello everyone, and welcome to the Coaching for Self-Belief podcast with Pete and Andy. This week we're going to look at the mindfulness technique and practices that you can do off court and on court. Pete, what have you got for us?
Well, it's interesting that you'd phrase it that way. We were talking about it earlier, and it's interesting to look at it that way, I think. And it works for me to look at it as if there's just one technique for mindfulness. And that technique is the definition that Jon Kabat-Zinn gave and that we shared last week. So the one technique of mindfulness is simply this: to pay attention on purpose, in the moment, and non-judgmentally. That is the technique of mindfulness. Now, there are thousands of different ways you could choose to do that. That's the on purpose bit, isn't it? It's just deciding, okay, I'm going to choose to put my attention on this or this or this. And then that can develop into practices that people find helpful.
Absolutely. And we made reference to how this also connects with the inner game first principle of non-judgmental awareness of what is. But to do it consciously, to pay attention on purpose, which means to choose where you'd like to put your attention.
Yeah.
So have you got any sort of practices, Pete, where we could...
We have, and perhaps before we get into that, to bring another connection with the inner game in, which is the stop tool that Tim Galway brought in his most recent book, The Inner Game of Stress. And the stop tool is very simply a stop in the flow of your experience of whatever it is that you're doing. So it could be during a tennis match, it could be for a coach during a coaching session, that you just stop for a second. And he developed it as an acronym so that it's step back, think, organize, and proceed, so that you have a little punctuation in the day or in what you're doing, a chance to just kind of press the reset button. And from the mindfulness perspective, it's an opportunity to drop into some mindfulness of what's happening, that then that little breathing space will give you a chance to, having pressed the reset button, then move on perhaps more effectively with what it is that you're doing.
Great. So this stepping back is stepping back from all this unconscious momentum that you could have in the middle of a match. You could be feeling frustrated. There could be lots of thoughts going through your head. So the one thing that I'd just like to share as a practice around this is that as you sit down at the changeover, you could do this 30-second mindfulness exercise, which is to pick 3 objects in your vision and to name them just without any subjectiveness to it. So you might say, this is a net post, and to inhale and then to exhale, and then to find something else, like this is a water bottle, and then to inhale and exhale. Then you might find this is a tennis ball. Inhale and exhale. And if you allow yourself 30 seconds to do that, so 10 seconds each object, it will reset your mind so that you'll be more focused. You would have quietened down this unconscious momentum that's going on and this frustration, and then you're ready to play again. And I know, Pete, you had something about dropping down also, which we were talking about just a little while ago too, and that was dropping down into, what was that again?
Dropping down out of your thoughts, which are up here, around your head and your brain, dropping out of your thoughts and into your heart, so that you put your awareness in that part of your body, in the heart center, if you like, and just putting your attention there has an effect.
And it's just that process of just doing that is the mindfulness itself. So you don't have to do anything with that. It's just taking a stop to notice what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and that's all you have to do. And then the exercise I suggested is perhaps a little bit more practical, where you could just name objects just without any subjective experience, because the definition of mindfulness again is to pay attention on purpose in the present moment, but non-judgmentally. So you don't put a judgment on it. You know, that's a crappy old racket over there, or that's a bit of a manky old water bottle. It's just that's a water bottle. That's a net post. Inhale, exhale.
Just noticing.
Okay.
Yeah. Which brings in also the idea that awareness is curative, which we first heard when Sir John Whitmore was helping us back in the tutor training days. Wonderful phrase, awareness is curative, that, you know, that there's very often nothing else to do but put your attention on something, and things can happen then. Even if it's just, as you say, I think that's a wonderful way to describe it, this momentum of unconscious things happening that can happen in a tennis match, or even for a tennis coach whilst they're coaching. There's a lot of automatic things going on, thought processes and emotions playing out. And so it can be just hugely useful to step back, have that little stop, a moment of being mindful of your experience, and then it can help just to carry on from there.
You could start practicing this off court as well. So you might be driving your car somewhere, you could look out of your car window, you could see a tree, you could inhale, exhale, you could see somebody put on a bike, you know, for example, that's a bike. So you can do these exercises away from the tennis court, so that actually when you get to the tennis court, they should be much easier to implement. And also with time, you know, we recognize there's only 90 seconds on changeover time. So, you know, if you can practice, it will make it easier on the court.
Yes. And
anything else to add, Pete?
Well, I think that I wanted to bring in the idea of observation mode versus trying mode, which is another connection to the inner game. And just to talk about that a little bit, that the observation mode that Tim Galway talked about is mindfulness. That as coaches, we can help players to be in observation mode by asking them a non-directive question, like, you know, what are you noticing right now? And that puts them into observation mode, so they're being mindful. And that can help them to perform better. Because there's less interference, they're not thinking too much. And so Tim Galway talked about, you know, what's the opposite of observation mode is when you're trying too hard, when you're in trying mode. And so mindfulness, and to deliberately drop into moments of mindfulness, can help you to not be in trying mode so much.
I was just thinking a good topic next time could be effective questioning to help people become more mindful, because I know that's quite a hot topic at the moment, is what kind of questions can you ask to help people drop into mindfulness? And the question you just said, what do you notice, is something that stops people immediately, and they have to then notice, become aware of something that maybe they're thinking, feeling.
Yeah, well, that would be the big one. It's what do you notice? Throws people straight away into, they have to be in the moment to answer that question. So it's immediately puts them into mindfulness. Yeah.
Maybe we could go over some questions in another podcast, perhaps, that sort of help people drop into mindfulness or awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
And
so
yeah, for me, that kind of wraps it up for this podcast. I think that, you know, a nice exercise that you shared to think about there's only one mindfulness technique, but that, you know, it can be then transferred into lots of different ways of practicing that one technique, and to practice off court for tennis players, so that it becomes automatic, something that they can bring into a match that they've practiced, that they can easily use to help them very much.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. So we hope you have fun with that, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Very good. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.